welcome to another episode of Wheels of Fury.
Yeah.
And that's well, I can't even remember what we did. It's another installment, anyways, of Look Back at You series, where we look back at 2001.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of reviews of pay-per-views
Yes.
in 2001,
Yeah.
which I think was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so we start off. It's gonna be the first of two end of federations.
Yes.
The first one we're gonna talk about in a second
Yes.
is WCW. We've got WWF, and then talk about the last ECW pay-per-view.
Yeah. The last Monday Nitro, of course, took place in Panama City Beach, Florida. And they had a really nice setup for that show.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to the crossover, if you will, because once again, I didn't watch it, but I do remember the Raw episode,
Yes.
and so we will get into that.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna need a little liquid refreshment. Bing! So, sit back, watch the show. Hope you like it.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of WCW, Night of the Champions.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Heard quite a lot about, and kind of make you does wonder and make you think, had WCW been able to be on a network and still were able to get money and make money, what could have been the potential for WCW in today's standards, like being around today?
Oh, I know, and I think that's the thing. You know, a lot of wrestlers, promoters have said that WCW was the shits. Now, obviously, we've done a lot of reviews for WCW, and I can argue for myself, anyways, that it kind of was. Later in WCW's career, though, I mean, in the early 2000s, late 90s, it seemed to be like they were losing a lot of money. And yeah, WWF really stole the show in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it was not a surprise when Vince McMahon himself decided that he was going to buy the company. Right or wrong, it was a decision that I don't know if it should have been made.
Yeah, I mean, like when Ted Turner decided he was going to no longer be affiliated with WCW anymore, it was like, okay, we have a network, don't have funding really anymore. They were going to go with AOL.
Yeah.
And they did for a little bit, but that fell through. They were going to get a business partner through Eric Bischoff, and like Bischoff and whoever would, run WCW, and they would have money and all this other stuff, and then that fell through.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't really find any other means of making money, so to speak. So we're like, well, we pretty much have no other choice but to sell.
Yeah. Is it a shame? We'll talk more about that near the end, or at the end of this review, but
Yeah.
anyways. Matchup, by the way, this was in Pampa Beach, Florida,
Yes.
an outdoor event, and a very cool setting as well.
Oh yeah.
I will give this to WCW. They had some really nice, like, sets,
Oh yeah.
you know. But, I mean, just look at Mall of America 95.
Yeah.
So,
The very first Nitro.
That's right. That's right, yes. So we start off with the WCW World Heavyweight Championship and the United States Championship. I'm not sure if they were both on the line, but you've got Scott Steiner and Booker T. And Booker T being the United States Champion and Scott Steiner being the WCW Champion.
Yeah. And it's interesting how they had this match, Scott as World Champion, Booker as United States Champion, and Booker ended up being the last WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Five-time WCW Champion. I don't think that was 5, but whatever.
Whatever. And I'm not exactly sure why they decided to have Booker go over Scott, but that was the way it went. And, you know, yeah, Booker at the time was dual champion.
And I think that was, honestly, I don't know if it was the right call. I think that they didn't want to
Yeah.
put Steiner over with both titles. Would it have worked? Maybe. It's one of those things where it's like, Booker had the right call, he had the right look, you know, he branched out from his brother.
Yes.
You know, Harlem Heat was probably, I mean, imagine that. 2 guys from Texas in a team called Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
So, based in New York,
Yeah.
for those of you that won't know, but like, anyways, yeah, so, I mean, Booker T really made it on his own, and I think becoming the last world champion in WCW was a pretty good call,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Number 1 contenders match for the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships. And the thing about this is the Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships weren't really that big of a thing until, like, I'll say probably 2000, 2001, 99, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cruiserweight Tag Team titles. It was a 3-way dance with the Filthy Animals, Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yeah.
and Billy Kidman versus 3 Counts, Evan Courageous and Shannon Moore, and the Young Dragons of Kaz Hayashi and Yang. Of course, Yang, Jimmy Wang Yang,
Yeah.
Kaz Hayashi. I don't really know if he went by anything else in his career, but yeah. And Ray and Kidman won.
Yeah. I mean, 3 Count were a really good team.
Yes.
They had that whole boy band gimmick,
Yeah, yeah.
which was interesting. You know, and I think Shannon Moore, it's really too bad I don't know where he is at this point.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since we've seen him
Oh, I
in
know.
the ring. Him and, well, we know Billy Kidman is backstage, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, what could have been?
Oh, I know.
And I mean, when you look at the revival of ECW, if you will, which, okay, I mean, when you look at that, you go, you know, Shannon Moore could have had a good career there. He had that punk rock look or whatever, and, you know, that big fucking mohawk. But then he did some work in TNA with whatever his name was.
Yeah. They were Ink.
Yes. So after
Shannon
that,
Moore and Jesse Neal.
yes, that's the one. I don't know what happened to them, unfortunately, but I think that he is probably one of the most underrated wrestlers in the at least cruiserweight, light heavyweight.
Yeah, like after Shannon was in WCW, he was in the WWE for a little bit. He did some stuff, cruiserweights, but probably his most notable claim to fame, so to speak, if you will, was being Matt Hardy's
Yeah,
protege or whatever.
yeah,
He won.
the fellow MFer.
Yes.
And I think that, yeah, it's like, and you know, you have Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman, like, yeah, they were two of the best cruiserweights in WCW. Again, you know, Billy did have a lot of good matches when he came over to WWF, or
Right.
WWE rather.
Yeah.
Of course, we all know Ray's longevity in career, and fuck, still going at 48 years old.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that man's had a hell of a career, and I don't know if he's intending on hanging up the boots anytime soon, but man, I have a 20-year career, and like Matt said, you know, almost 50 years old, and still can hang with today's era, so to speak.
yeah. I think the only other person that I know that can still move like a cruiserweight, I mean, okay, that's kind of pushing it, but like Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, you know, the closest, and more so in the WWE side of things, was Undertaker.
Well, yeah.
And he was over like 6 feet.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. These two won the match and won the opportunity to have the titles.
Yep.
So, WCW Cruiserweight Championship got Shane Helms versus Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Yeah.
and young Chavo.
Yeah.
It's funny, I rented a VHS once. Oh, okay, with my parents.
Yeah.
I think it was Bash at the Beach '97 or whatever it was. I
Right.
can't remember. I do remember that it was Eddie and Chavo and hair versus hair.
Yes. Yes.
And just the whole Chavo freaking out after the match.
Yeah. It's funny how at WCW both Ray and Chavo were called Junior. Rey Mysterio Jr., Chavo Guerrero Jr. And then they both go over to WWE. Ray was a little before Chavo, and it was just Rey Mysterio and Chavo Guerrero.
And then this is the funny part though, because Ray's uncle rather
Yes.
was Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
And so I am not quite sure why his nephew. Now there's a story about that and about the masks.
Yes.
So if you have the A&E channel, watch next week Rey Mysterio. I don't normally plug that stuff on here, but anyways, there is a reason for that. But
Isn't the Ray thing tomorrow or this Sunday?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But this was a good match too. I mean, you look at Shane, you know, again, one of the most interesting wrestlers, again, a part of 3 Count,
Yes.
you know, and then branching out, becoming the guy that would become the Hurricane in WWE.
Yep.
And then, you know, with Rosie as the shit, so. And.
Yep.
But, you know, Chavo, I mean, this guy, when you look at his career, and you look at WCW, you look at WWE, and I mean, fuck, this guy had some matches in Smash Wrestling in Canada.
Yeah.
So, it's gonna be interesting to see, like, where he goes. He wasn't in AEW for a cup of coffee, but he didn't wrestle,
No.
so.
Yeah.
In fact, where the fuck is Vicky? To quote Eddie Guerrero.
Well, I haven't really seen Vicky or Nyla Rose in a little while, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We go on to a match for the World Tag Team titles. We got the Natural Born Thrillers, Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Hare, versus Team Canada, Lance Storm, and Mike Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you thought TNA had some Canadians on Team Canada. Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Mike Awesome. Well, you know, here's a guy that was a really good wrestler for what he was. And, you know,
Yeah.
you look at his time in ECW, and it was like, yeah, he really proved what he was one of the best big men in the company.
Oh, yeah.
When they went to WWE, he had the hardcore title. Not so much anything else. I don't remember. WCW, that 70s guy, that's all I remember.
Yeah.
So, yeah, him and Team Canada, I don't get it. You know, it's one of those things where, again, we talked about Daphne and the fact that she had struggled with depression.
Yeah.
And then she ended up taking her own life.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it was the same for Mike Awesome.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a very, very weird situation. But
Yeah.
that's just the way it was. And I think, could he have gotten help? I'm sure he could have.
Oh, he for sure could have, but
you know, regardless, still one of the best wrestlers. And, you know, not of all time, but still, you know, one of the best wrestlers as a big man.
yeah, one of the best big men for sure.
I would dare say underrated because
Oh,
I
fuck
mean,
yeah.
probably not as tall as Undertaker, but like
No.
can still fucking go.
Oh yeah, like the talent that man had, like not only could he display being a big man, but he was agile as fuck too.
Yeah.
I mean, there are very few men his size at that time period that could fucking leap over the top rope like he could.
Yeah. And then Lance Storm, obviously, I think this guy, one of the best technical wrestlers, and it's always funny to me, you get a lot of these Canadian guys that are very good technicians.
Oh yeah.
You know, you got Lance Storm, the Hart brothers, Chris Benoit,
Yes.
even though he wasn't born in Canada, Chris Jericho,
Yeah.
you know, I think that, yeah, I mean, he even made his own title,
Yeah.
which is a fucking shame they didn't do that in WWE.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I mean, Natural Born Thrillers had won. So they had retained their titles.
Yes.
So.
match
Okay.
is very interesting. In my opinion, also very weird. So, you had a match with Sean Stasiak and Bam Bam Bigelow. And apparently, for whatever fucking reason, the stipulation, I'll call it, was if Bigelow won, he would tattoo Stasiak.
Yeah, I don't understand that logic at
Yeah,
all.
I don't get it either.
I do know that he was a tattoo artist and
Yeah.
had a bunch of fucking tattoos. I don't even know what this was all about, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I'm sure the match between Stasiak and Bigelow was really good, just very odd stipulation. Although, at this point in time, fucking they did some weird ass shit. Fucking Judy Bagwell on a forklift, Viagra on a pole,
Yeah.
whatever, other stupid shit they did.
Yeah, no wonder they fell in the fucking toilet.
Well, yeah.
So. Yeah, anyhow, Sean Stasiak ended up going over.
Right.
And you know, I think a lot of people may or may not remember that he is a second generation wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, Stan Stasiak, I'm not quite sure. I don't remember a lot of matches that I've seen from him,
Right.
but I do know that Sean Stasiak, I think, could have had a better career.
Yeah.
You know, even coming over to WWE, I think he would have had a good career. I mean, I would never have seen him as WWE champion.
No.
Intercontinental champion at best.
Probably,
I mean,
yeah.
fuck, even tag team champion.
Yeah.
But,
Like that Stasiak in WCW, he wasn't a part of the whole invasion thing or angle that we talked about several times. And I do believe he hung around WWF, WWE, post invasion, but I don't remember him lasting very long, and then he either got released or left or whatever the hell,
yeah.
and I think he got into chiropractic medicine or something like that, I believe.
That's cool.
Or physical therapy or something along those lines.
And Bam Bam would be dead 2 years after this.
Yeah.
And you know, this guy, the Beast from the East,
Yeah.
you know, somebody that I think would have really benefited from becoming the WWF champion.
Yeah.
I know I've made several arguments on here, so I won't beat a dead horse.
Yes.
It's one of those things where you have a guy that had a very stellar career in ECW.
Yes.
He had a good career. Well, you know what? Yeah, he had a good career in WWF when he was there in the 80s and then in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, elsewhere, I can't remember. And then, of course, WCW.
Yeah, he had a very good career in ECW. Really good career in, WWF in the 80s and the 90s. WCW did fairly well, too. But then, yeah, after that,
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a shame. Unfortunately, you know, shit happens, and I think that, you know, him and Luna are probably shooting whiskey up there, doing whatever,
oh, probably.
you know? And I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team title match.
Yes.
You have the winners of the number one contenders, the Filthy Animals, who took on Elix Skipper and Kid.
Kid Romeo.
Yes.
Now, you guys have heard us mention the name Elix Skipper before in, TNA, but he did spend a little bit of time in WCW.
Right.
It was only maybe a year, I believe. And, this was in 2001, and then 2002, course, TNA comes around and he goes over to TNA, and him and Christopher Daniels and Loki are Triple X, and I of course mentioned about was it Turning Point 2004, I believe it was, the 6 Sides of Steel match with Daniels and Skipper against America's Most Wanted. That was a very, very good match.
Oh, yeah.
And Elix spent a little bit of time in WCW. Like I said, it may have only been a year, could have been a little longer.
Right.
And Kid Romeo, I remember a little bit of Kid Romeo, just trying to think off the top of my head. Anyway, yeah.
Well, the Filthy Animals ended up winning, becoming the new WCW Cruiserweight Champions. And it really makes me sad that, WWE never even capitalized on that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how fucking cool would that have been? You have these guys who are high flyers, they're not very big. Why don't you give them WWE Cruiserweight Tag Team titles, or fuck, even WWE Light Heavyweight Tag Team titles.
Or something along those lines.
Like, that would have been fucking sick.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
At least they brought back the Women's Tag Team Championships again.
Well, true.
So.
Yep. Of the evening, a long storied rivalry in WCW, even going back to NWA. These guys wrestled each other probably hundreds of times throughout their time in the organization, transitioning from the NWA to WCW. Sting and Ric Flair, one final time in WCW, and it was a pretty good match. Like, it was nothing to, write home about, but,
Well, no, I mean,
for what it was good.
These guys knew that it was fucking over.
Yeah.
And obviously you see the emotion on Ric's face, but I mean, these guys, you know what, it wasn't the best match.
No.
And so, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think these guys really did fucking try.
Yeah, they did.
And it was one of those things where I thought it would have been cool to have Ric Flair's last match with Sting.
Yeah.
But, whatever. And I think that's kind of how I have to look at it. It's like, whatever.
Pretty
I was
much.
never the biggest fan of Ric Flair. And I didn't know too much about Sting.
Yeah.
I do think that he would have benefited from a feud with Undertaker or Kane at least.
Yeah, one or the other.
But we got what we got at WrestleMania 31, so...
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean... It's just like... It really amazes me how you have during the night, you have, of course, I don't even remember where they were, in Stamford, or I can't remember what city they were in.
Right.
Of course, this was the night Vince McMahon addressed that he had bought the competition.
Yes.
And he did the thumbs up and thumbs down for wrestlers. And then you got Shane McMahon coming out in Panama City and saying that he had
The
signed...
name on the contract says McMahon, but it's not yours, it's mine.
Right.
I now own WCW. It's like, alright, let's see where this goes. And, well, yeah.
And like at the time, I was a big fan of WWF. And I thought, I'm not sure where this is going to go. And I had this on VHS, and it was like, A, I can't wait for WrestleMania because I know it'll be Shane versus Vince,
Yeah.
and B, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people through the years have said, well, WCW should have won. They should have beat. Oh, they should have beat. Oh, yeah, because Vince is selfish and blah, blah, blah. WCW fell through the fucking toilet. They had shit gimmicks. They ruined a lot of wrestlers that came in from WWF. They had Hulk Hogan setting his face on fire. As my friend would say, it went over like a fart in church. You have no idea that they shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And then they ran out of money. And so Vince did what Vince believed that he should have done. On the other hand, you killed your competition.
Yeah.
Vince, if he would have let WCW die on its own, it was already DOA to begin with,
Yeah.
you would have had a stellar competition for how long, who knows.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that you got rid of Bill Goldberg, you got rid of the Steiner brothers, you got rid of Sting. And then you're gonna sit there and go, well, yeah, but they came in a couple of years later. Who fucking cares about that? I mean, Jesus Christ, you had Ric Flair half a match with Sting. And what month was this? March?
I believe so.
Yeah, because this was the same episode as Raw. So you had that match, and then he shows up on WWF TV in November, right after Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So there's one of you guys. You should have had Bill Goldberg. You should have had at least, if not, all three or whatever NWO members, at least one of them. You should have had Sting. But they all sat at home. Apparently, according to Bruce Pritchard, it wasn't their fault.
No, it wasn't. You can bet your bottom dollar Vince would have been tickled pink doing fucking backflips had he been able to get Goldberg, Sting, NWO, etc., etc., etc. But because they still getting money from WCW in their contracts, they just sat at home getting paid to do fucking nothing. Had they not have had that money, guaranteed money, if you will, for sure they would have went to WWE. Guaranteed. But because they were still getting guaranteed money, however fucking much it was, it's out of their ass did nothing, got paid for it.
And that's what pisses me off. Because they were guaranteed that money.
Yeah.
Just imagine. Would you rather sit on your ass at the house and do fuck all? Or would you rather go in the ring and wrestle like how many other times a week?
If it was me, I would have went to Vince and been like, here's the deal. I still got this contract with WCW. I'm getting, $500,000, let's say, whatever the fuck. I will work in your company under the contract that I'm currently in right now, making however much money. When that contract comes up, we can negotiate a contract. Me permanently full-time with the WWE.
Yeah.
Instead, these guys that were making, the big money was like, I got an income, I'll just do my own thing. Which is unfortunate, but that was the way it went. And think about this too. had, they went the way of, Shane in charge of WCW, Vince as, head of WWE, and, still had WCW weekly Monday nights and so on and so forth. The invasion angle that was potentially could have been. Now hold on.
Okay.
The invasion angle that was more than likely would have been a whole lot better.
Exactly. I listened to Kevin Nash at this Broken Skull session, and he's a big military guy, and he says, I don't remember the general, whatever the fuck his name was, after they win the war, after the North beat the South, and go, hey, we have a position for you, or whatever. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
But the main point was, yes, your company lost.
Yeah.
You need to get off your ass and go to work. I don't care what it is you do, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for Jerry Jarrett venting TNA, now total non-stop action,
Yeah.
Impact Wrestling, whatever you will,
Yeah.
you would not see Kevin Nash or X-Pac or Pac, 6-Pac, 7-Pac, whatever the fuck Sean Waltman was going to be called,
Yeah.
or the Road Warriors, or Mr. Kurt Hennig,
Yeah.
or any of those guys. You have to understand that just because you're told to sit on your ass at the house, what you could do is you could fight back and say, no, I'd rather work. To me, that is just being fucking lazy.
Maybe they weren't told they had to stay home, and they probably chose to. Because like I said,
Yeah.
they're making guaranteed money. They're making however much for however long, and they were just like, okay, I'm still getting money. I'll, wait out my contract and then decide what I want to do from there.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, you also have to consider the fact that these aren't guys that are in their 50s and 60s. They were still relatively young.
Yeah.
Ish. But they could still fucking go.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
I know they had issues. Actually, no, that was in 2003 when that happened.
Yes.
So Kevin Nash tore his quad.
Yes.
So then that scraps what I was gonna say. But
Shit.
you have guys that could still work.
Yeah.
And it is very, very, very unfortunate that Goldberg comes in 2002. He could have had a stellar feud with Brock Lesnar if the fucking dirt sheet wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash tears his quad after he makes back the NWO.
Yeah.
And then, the whole thing with Sting. If you want to watch that shit, we're not going to go back into it. Just go watch WrestleMania 31 review.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was still a good show.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a good last Nitro.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true. You look at the very first one in 1995, and you go, it's kind of like, you never know how long things are going to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at the history of AEWA and how long they were around.
Oh, yeah.
WCW, how long they were around. And then when you think about it, ECW was only around for not even 20 years.
No.
And and whether you like it or not, WWE rather, is always going to be that dominant force. Unless in another 10 years, AEW whips their ass, who knows?
Yeah.
But they are, right now, one of the best wrestling companies in North America, bar none.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was the first installment of Look Back at 2001
Yeah.
with WCW Night of the Champions.
Yep. Yeah. Really good show. You know, there's a lot of things that, talk about what could have been and, what should have been, but it ended up being the way it was, and, I don't really think there could have been a better send-off, if you will, than what they did.
I mean, I just buried WCW. But when you think about it, really, TNA revived a lot of them,
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Nash and Booker T and Scott Steiner had a very, very good stable with Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle
Oh, yeah.
and the main event Mafia.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you had guys that came from WCW. Started in WCW. AJ Styles, James Storm, Christopher Daniels maybe,
Yeah.
I think.
AJ was there for a little bit. Daniels, I don't remember. Joe, I don't think he was ever there.
No, he did some jobs in WWF.
Yeah. But yeah, there it is.
So, next week we have a triple threat. Talk about Worlds Collide.
Yep.
Clash at the Castle, both in Cardiff, Wales. And then AEW, All Out
Yeah.
in Chicago.
You.
Bears! So, yeah, this was a good episode for the first installment of 2001.
Yep.
And so Kyle doesn't have his mug, but...
Well, I got my mug.
Oh, alright.
It's, well,
So, for me, Matt, this is Killer Kyle.
Yeah.
We will see you next week. Take us home.
We will see you next week.
There's this.
Peace.